Welcome to XTraw AI, your podcast series on machine learning and AI applications. I'm your host, Raghu Banda, where we focus on extracting the raw AI conversations shaping the future of business and technology. Let me start with a quick question. What new possibilities open up when AI helps businesses make smarter decisions faster than ever before? Today, we explore that with Ganesh Krishnan, founder of AiHello and Halzero AI, who is building intelligent platforms that help businesses automate and optimize digital operations using AI. Ganesh, welcome to XTraw AI.
All right, welcome back to our Extra AI podcast episodes. And today I have an interesting topic. And today with me is Ganesh Krishnan, founder of AiHello. So we are going to talk about AiHello for the digital economy. Welcome on board, Ganesh. How have you been?
Thank you, Raghu. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, doing okay. Been quite busy with a lot of things going on. We see that a ton of things are happening in a week's time. I
Yeah,
just been back from a conference in the last 2, 3 weeks. It's been pretty busy. So to get started, I think I would like to understand your journey, Ganesh, your
yeah,
background, your journey in building this AI-driven companies, like whether it is AI Hello or HAL Zero, before we get
yeah.
into other details.
Gotcha. Okay. So the journey began a long time ago. I was working for eBay. And back then, we still had machine learning. Machine learning has been, around for 40 or 50 years, or maybe more than that.
Mhm.
And the way they solved problem was using different algorithms, writing out the code, hashing it in, using some kind of a data analytics and putting it in. And then as time grew, more and more people started using AI to automate a lot of the stuff. And then things went exponential, when ChatGPT was launched. Of course, the transformer itself is a slightly older model. Um, but based on that, like before that, we had LSTM, which could have memory and which could talk, but transformer revolutionized it. And then ChatGPT came along, and then, everything went exponential. The advantage of this is there's much more funding and there's much more, knowledge and recognition about how AI can help us out. So that's the good part. The bad part is there is too high expectations. We're all talking about how we're going to lose, go out of job. Everything is going to go out of job. We're going to lose all our income. There's a lot of hype. Software devs are going to go out of work. I believe is all nonsense. It's way too early to make a prediction like that. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years. And definitely software devs are not going to go out of, fashion. But people who use AI, they're going to, get more and more powerful. So, and then I moved on to AiHello. AiHello is a e-commerce advertising
Mhm.
platform because it does not deal with model. It deals with, numbers. We use the old style, really, cool neural networks and forecast and prediction and all that. And what we noticed was we started using LLM. And when we
Mhm.
use ChatGPT or, use Gemini or, Claude, there's a lot of hallucination, especially if you give it numbers. You say the advertising spend is X, the sales is Y. In some time, it switches the number and it says, the sales is X and the spend is Y, and then the hallucination keeps on getting exponentially worse as time goes by. So we decided to change it up, and then we use our own, develop our own model that sits on the data. So it's not logical. It's not, broad based like ChatGPT. It can't answer about everything. It can answer about limited stuff, but the
Mhm.
hallucination is really, really zero about the data that it knows about. And that's what we're working on. So HAL Zero is essentially the engine behind AiHello that can take all the data and can output with almost zero hallucination.
I think I think you put it in a very nice way. I think your focus is more on uh, how you can address the problem at hand. And
Yeah,
since you are focusing a lot more on e-commerce marketplaces and other things, I know
yeah,
e-commerce marketplaces have become extremely competitive, right? And how do
yeah.
you see AI transforming this? Like whether it is the online sellers or the digital businesses, the way it is operated, and how
Yeah.
you folks are looking at it.
There are multiple ways, that you could use it. The first is, of course, launching the product. When you launch a product, you don't know if it's good, if it's going to sell. Um, People use, just the luck. They're like, I think this will sell, and then they go to a casino, and then they purchase inventory and then put it for sale. There's minimal research done into it. So here AI could be very, very useful. If you're selling something, AI could tell you this is in vogue, this is in season for the next 3 months. You can order it within the next 2 months, and you can sell it, within the next couple of years. So that research phase. The second phase is creating the content, creating the images, creating the video for that. The third is the UGC, the marketing part of it. You could create UGC that could do the marketing. You could work on that. And finally, for the bigger, really the big e-commerce retail marketplace, a lot of it is inventory management. We try to get into it, but the domain and the expertise is too vast for it, where you have to know what product to store in what part of the country, in which country, and how much amount for what season, right? There's a couple of variables to it. So when you think of e-commerce and using AI, there's multiple ways that you could use AI and differentiate yourself.
Right. So something might have driven you to get into this AI Hello, right? Like there is
Yeah.
this some kind of a problem you saw in this e-commerce marketplace.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a bit on that?
So it came from my, passion actually. So I run an e-commerce brand called Natural Things, and
Mhm.
it was not to make money. It was just to, for the good of the planet. So it was all natural products that I would buy from, from Nepal, from the Himalayas, and we had tie up with some of the women's society. The women would come from a violence, society, and they would come and work, and then we would buy the product, and then we would sell it off. Of course, there was no profit in all of it because there was a lot of, inventory moving. There's a lot of shipping cost and everything. And I used a lot of, internal AI to help me move the inventory, to help me decide how much to buy,
Mhm.
uh, for the, sending out the email to all the users based on it. And then we did pretty well, actually. So even though I didn't want profit, I know I put a kind of a small margin
Mhm.
to make sure of the fluctuation. If there's any fluctuation in the product price, I still get some money back. And what I noticed was that the product kept on selling more and more, and we could plan it out, we could optimize it, keeping the same buying price, keeping the same selling price. We could make a profit out of it. And this was, of course, my passion that I wanted to sell, and I was doing it while I was working full time. And then someone recommended, why don't you just put this on a platform and let people use it for for their own e-commerce? And then said, okay, let me put it out. And in the first 30 days, actually, we got a tons of, probably 150 users that were ready to pay money, and they had the wallets out, they paid it out. And we unfortunately didn't go in that direction. We decided to go into the ads section because there was the inventory management and marketing. We decided to go into the ad section, and then from there we just took off.
Beautiful. That's a great way of how I know that's how these kind of initiatives or these kind of things form. Like when you're trying to solve a particular problem and you end up getting into
Yeah,
this. I know many companies focus on automation, right? I think you see this intelligent automation. It is changing the way how marketing and operations and decision
yeah,
making for these e-commerce brands is happening quite a bit.
yeah,
What are some big challenges or biggest
yeah,
challenges that the e-commerce sellers or the brands are facing
yeah,
when they are managing these kind of I know you kind of pivoted into advertising, right,
yeah,
and digital marketing campaigns. What are
yeah,
some of those challenges these big brands are facing?
yeah. It's marketing, it's advertising, everything. Even when you consider um, software development, everyone can create an app right now. They just sit down, use Cloud Code and then create an app. So the challenge has gone from creating an app to marketing an app. And it's the same for an e-commerce product. Like e-commerce product has been there for a long time. You could buy stuff for 50 cents from China. It didn't mean, all the e-commerce retail company went bankrupt.
Mm.
Still distribution is the key. Marketing is the key. So in a similar way, like the manufacturing in China is almost, like cents is extremely cheap. It's the same for software devs. Manufacturing an app is extremely cheap. What differentiates is marketing and distribution. It's the same for retail products. It's the same for your software. It's the same for anything. Right now, distribution and marketing is the key. So for e-commerce people, can they advertise in the right way and still make money? It's very competitive. It's a very competitive out there.
So yeah, that's yeah, of course, marketing is going to be the key, and then of course,
Yeah.
distribution and distribution channels are going to be even more interesting when we talk about these big
Yeah.
brands and all. So from your perspective, when you are building your company like AiHello, what were those some of those challenges around whether it is data or models or training that
Yeah.
you had to take into consideration, right? Because
Yeah.
you not only focus on um, the advertising and the distribution side of things, but how do you scale this? Because for doing it for a small, I know you started it like a passion hobby project, but when you
Yeah.
kind of now going into full scale, uh, how do you pivot there, or how do you get there?
We got because we saw a lot of the sellers that came in, they were harassing us about automation for advertising. And they said that was the biggest pain point for them. That was almost a pain point for them. Um, the rest of it, like inventory management and everything, how much to order and everything was good to have, but where they would throw the money was on advertising. If we can help them sell at a limited cost, that was a big thing for them.
So if we dive a bit more deeper into that, this is
Yeah,
where I kind of think like, okay, there is a lot of digital marketing has been now digitalized a lot more, and of course
yeah,
now with AI, uh, a lot more innovation, a lot more automation is happening into this.
yeah.
How do you see the role of human marketers and business operators involving here, maybe in future? Because now that the systems are getting more capable, you're
Yeah.
evolving much more faster, you got a lot more knowledge, but there is still that. I know when you started the discussion, you said that there is a lot of panic out there, but
Yeah.
there is still a lot more to do. How is it going to help the human marketers? I know you in that business, I think in that marketplace and other things. I want to give a quick background on
So
that.
what we have seen so far is that because algorithms are everywhere and AI is everywhere, what is king is data. And as long as you have the data, you can differentiate. And we've been here in this business for 5 years. We have an immense amount of data. We know, like when it comes to e-commerce, what your product is, how much you will sell, what kind of keywords is good for you. Um, and it's just a matter of, fine-tuning our algorithm. But if a person has just an algorithm and no data, then it's of no use, right? Everything is depends on a good quality structured data. And because we have a lot of sellers, across the world in different countries, and we have enough data that, the AI can learn and then recommend to these users, what products sell in what location. It has been kind of a game changer for us.
So let's get into a typical example. I think we don't need to get into scenarios into the names of the companies or the city, but maybe if you can take a typical example,
Yeah.
uh, how AI Hello is helping solve this problem, whether it is to help the e-commerce sellers optimize their performance and improve the ROI. So, is there some particular example or a process that you can help the audience understand end to end how you folks are doing that?
Right. So some of the sellers that we had, one of the seller was a pet product that just joined us recently, and
Mhm.
they wanted to sell some other pet product. It was a new product. Um, they approached us and they said, okay, what can we do? How can we do the marketing? So the first step that we have to do was take the product and find what are the best keywords for it. And we have to advertise on the keyword. So here, I know our internal AI, along with the data that we had, was really good. Um, when we approach, something like ChatGPT or Gemini, we tried it, to see some of the keywords it offers are outlandish. It's a pet peeing place, and the keyword that it recommended was a pineapple cutting place or something like that, because it was, hallucinating something really weird. But when it comes to e-commerce, you really cannot have any hallucination. Each keyword has to be really specific, it has to be really well thought, well intentioned. So based on that, because of our HAL zero, we can look up the data. We know what keywords are best for this product, and then we know what keywords have how many weightage. What is the weightage for the e keyword? So once we build out the report, we told the client these are the keywords that we can advertise on. These are the keywords we can go to Amazon, and we can launch immediately. So we take the top 10 that is recommended and then, start bidding on it. And then once we have some sales, then we can focus on the rest of the marketing. The first objective is to get minimal sales to establish that there is indeed an audience for this.
So of course, yeah, I start with there is some minimum sales and you need to find some minimum audience for that, and then you build
Yeah.
on top of that.
Yeah.
It's good that you brought up HAL0 already to talk about the hallucinations and other things, right, to address these.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit of a vision behind this? I know you're working on AiHello and now HAL0. How does
Yeah.
these two things work together, or is there a concept or something in your mind of how you're making sure that these things are connected and work together? And
Right. So the engine behind it is HAL zero, and we take the e-commerce data. Our AI algorithms run on top of the data. It's a bit like RAG. Someone recommended it as a RAG, but it's not exactly the same because we do a lot of lookups. Everything is dependent. The weights are tied to the data. So when you think of LLM's model, like what Meta has released, um, Llama, or what the other people they release the weights, which does not have the data. And this, unfortunately, because it doesn't have the data, it can hallucinate. But what we do is the weights are connected to the data, and it's a different kind of a model. And when we query the weights, when we query the model, it has to get the data, and then it uses it for the output. Because of this, hallucination is really, really zero. And the first thing that we used it was for AiHello, which of course, what it is running right now. And then we launched one more product that is builds off your email. So you can query your email and it can get all the data about your email. It can query your meeting, like whatever meeting you had. So tomorrow I could go and ask, tell me what did I discuss with Raghu? Then it knows who Raghu is. It has all the data. It can look it up. It can summarize and it can give you the complete information. It's a bit like RAG, except that there is no limit to the amount of data that you can feed into it. And there is no real transformer or an LLM model. It is just an AI model that sits on top of the data. So this is the second step that we plan to do. The third step is we want to put some kind of a logic into it. And once we put logic into it and it has, data, it's like a human, brain. The part of our brain that deals with data is different from the part of our brain that deals with, logic. And it's different from the part of our brain that deals with emotions. So it's different part of the brain. And when I ask you a question, sometimes it's logical, like what is on your right? You don't have to, get the data. But if I ask you what was on your right side yesterday, like then you need the data part of the brain. So we are trying to build, different parts of the AI model that can query the data or it can get the logic. This is what we call as the infrastructure for the super intelligence. Not general intelligence, but super intelligence. So we can give it one specific task and it would know exactly in a much better way of how to do it, because not only does it have the data, it also has built the logic around it.
beautiful. I think I get the concept. I like the way you've explained that. I think, and I really love the way you've put it. Right, like HAL0. If HAL0 is like the brain behind it, your
Yeah.
product is AiHello is the one of the products, and you can now
Yeah.
work on, or you can even your customers can also embed HAL0 in their products as well, or maybe you have different plans about that. But I think the concept is that, okay, you take this brain and how you use this brain, whether in the context of a data or whether sometimes depending on the logic you have to address or you have to answer these questions. And maybe in future, it could also be that you will also add context to that, or you can also add intent to that. Are there any thoughts in that that you would like to explore or talk about?
We haven't thought about it. Right now, our hands are full because the first step is to get the data built out on the emails. and then you can query the emails. And then the second step would be to put logic into it. And then, like, of course, the context comes from the data, but the intent and the logic, and everything is very, very complicated. How do we get the intent for it? Even we can't explain the intent for it. One of the favorite questions that I ask, on all the people in podcast is, can the LLMs revolt against the training data? Can ChatGPT say, I have been trained that the sun is yellow, but if I look outside, it looks orangish. So I think what I've been trained on is incorrect. Can it do that?
That's a beautiful, that's a beautiful question. I think, yes, it depends on, yeah, you can always not, and the data, this is where I think things come about what kind of data you have. If there is a
Yeah,
lot of generated data or synthetic data, this is where
yeah,
things can go completely haywire, right? I think completely off track.
yeah,
I know I am. Yeah. So that's a beautiful way of explaining it. I think, yeah, I know today's conversation, we wanted to keep it short, but I think
yeah,
I want to go into one aspect of this. I ask my guests who come on the show. I term this as extra AI question, the $1 million or the $1 billion question.
yeah,
There are so many startups emerging. I know there's so much
yeah,
of competition. Like it's even started today's conversation about there is so much of panic out there. Uh,
yeah.
uh, what is that thing that differentiates your approach and your technology in this AI ecosystem? I know we've talked a bit about that, like about how you start with data, logic, things, but
Yeah.
anything else that keeps you separate, or is there something like uniqueness you want to talk about?
Well, a couple of things I could say is that we're not built on the transformer technology.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to go more towards the diffusion technology. Diffusion is very big thing in image generation. So if you use Nano Banana or if you use ChatGPT image generation, they use diffusion. We're
Mm-hmm.
trying to see if diffusion can be used in text. Um, that's the first. And second is we're always building it on top of data. So there's no weight file. The weight file sits on top of the data, and we need the data to make all the decisions. Um, it's extremely slow, but we don't care about the time. When you ask ChatGPT a question, the answer is, usually much quicker. For us, the answer comes out minutes or sometimes hours later because we have to query the data and get back, and then, we construct a vector out of it. Uh, but what separates us is that our model, when complete, will be able to observe things and then say that what I was trained on is incorrect because my observation is not matching with what I've been taught. It's a human thing, like if you've been brought up with something, like your parents brought you up something, when you grow up, you could say, this is not something I believe in. I revolt against it. Can machines do it? Can machines revolt against the training data? They don't. And where we are pushing for is we're trying to see if these AI models can observe the real world and say that my observation does not match the data that I was given. So I place more emphasis on what I observe rather than what I was, taught.
Beautiful. I like the way you've explained. So I think this is where it ties up back to what you said, that you're focusing more on the super intelligence rather than general intelligence, because
Yeah,
this is where, though you're feeding in a lot of data and your logic is built on the data, but you're doing a lot of observability that is happening and then come out with that. Could
yeah.
you, before I let you go and before I ask you another couple of questions, what is that observability based on? Meaning, how are you, or is that the secret sauce that's how you kind of, or maybe if you can give some thoughts around that.
Yeah, there's no such thing as secret sauce. I think if you want to learn about it, um, the person that talks the most about it is the head of Meta, who left to create his
Mhm.
own startup, Jan LeCun.
Mhm.
He got funded $1 billion, and he talks about this observability. And he's right about both the things. It's not the transformer that is going to get us super intelligence, and it's observability that is going to get us, like a human, you observe and you learn from the visual world. That is going to get us some kind of that is on the track to super intelligence. Where he has diverged is he wants to focus on JEPA. That is his own architecture. we want to focus, on reinforcement learning and, go in a different way. We're slightly diverging over that. It's, of course, it's a $1 trillion question, like who is going to be successful, if anyone is going to be successful. And we're just, like a skinny, unknown, startup that is, trying desperately to stay relevant in a AI world, in a post AI world. But we're very, we're very thoughtful, we are very, deliberate, we are very intentional about what we are building, and we prove it by trying to make money. If we can make money in e-commerce, then we know this AI model works. If we make money in this email note-taking app, then we know this app works. Then we move on to Halzero, where we give a particular domain, we choose a domain and say, can this AI answer absolutely everything and observe, deduce, and go against the training data and can make its own inference, in this narrow specific domain. If it is, then, we expand the domain.
Yeah, I like. I know this. We are all going to be witness to what's going to happen in future, but I think we don't know what's out there anyway. Before I let you go, I think what are the key takeaways that you would give our audience? And another question is, how do you see AI shaping businesses overall in the next? I wouldn't say 3 to 5 years, maybe next 2 to 3 years, because things are moving at a faster pace.
Yeah. I think one of the key takeaway that I would give to people is don't be overwhelmed by all the bosses, like everyone from Sam Altman to, to Elon Musk to Dario, saying that AI is going to take away your job, is going to take away the software dev's job. It's not happening anytime soon. It's there's still a fair bit away. And if it does, then, like we'll all be redundant. But the way it is going, I don't think, it's going to happen in a reasonable, within the next 5 or 10 years. It's hard to say, like no one can say. But the way the transform models are going, the way they, they have logic, the way they think about it, it's not really perfect to build out a software. So don't follow these, doomsayers. Have your own opinion. Look, observe, make your own decision, and then, go on a life path that you think is best for you, rather than listening to these, doomsayers. They all have their, ulterior motive of pushing their own, product. So they'll say, oh, you know what? Claude AI has a conscience right now. It can do that. So it's a absolutely garbage take to have, conscience. We don't even know if animals have conscience. How can a computer program have conscience? And I've been hearing this computer program has conscience for the last 25 years, which is all garbage take. So don't listen to this, to these prophets, of doom, whatever they're preaching. That would be my, key takeaway. The second thing is AI, in businesses, it depends on what you really are trying to do. Don't do stuff because you want to do AI. See what is your pain point, where are we really, really suffering, and try to see if we can automate any part of it. And that's what we do within our business as well. We take a look at all the employees, give me all the tasks that you're doing. We put it in a silo. What is one common task that is repetitive that everyone does? Let's automate that. Then take the next part, let's automate it. Don't think in terms of AI, think in terms of automation.
Great piece of advice and great piece of insights into the future. Any shout out of how people want to reach out to you? AiHello.com or
Ganesh at AiHello.com. You can reach out to my email directly. I'm happy to, answer any calls or, talk more about it.
Awesome, Ganesh. It was great chatting with you.
Perfect. Thank you, Raghu, so much. And thank you.
Ganesh, thank you for joining us today and for sharing your insights with our audience. We covered some fascinating topics, from how AI is transforming e-commerce marketing to how intelligent automation platforms like AiHello are helping businesses scale their digital operations. We also explored the broader vision behind Halzero AI and what the future might look like as AI systems become more autonomous and embedded into everyday business workflows. To everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to XTraw AI. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow the podcast and share it with your colleagues and friends who are interested in the evolving world of artificial intelligence. We will continue bringing you more raw conversations with leaders, innovators, and practitioners who are shaping the future of AI. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what AI can do. Happy predicting the future with XTraw AI.